This is TV Podcast Industries, and we're talking about Star Trek Picard Episode 6, The Impossible Box. Jolan True, fellow Trekkers, this is TV Podcast Industries, and we are talking about The Impossible Box, which is the 6th episode of Star Trek Picard. I am one of your hosts, John.
I'm one of your hosts, Derek.
And rounding out the group is not Chris. No, unfortunately, he is still beamed away into the far-flung world of the business trip. Yes.
He is back, but he is recovering from very many late nights over the course of his time away. Yes. So he will be back with us very soon on Star Trek Picard, and I'm definitely looking forward to it because he's predicted a few things that I'd like him to talk about. I'm not even going to point them out. You guys know which ones he's predicted that are starting to come true.
He has, hasn't he? And dare I say it, he has been aboard the Borg ship, yes.
Maybe.
Which assimilates any culture within its way.
Well, that's a reference to his job, which we're not going to talk about on this podcast. But with Storm Jorge battering down our windows and doors and the coronavirus making sure everybody must stay indoors, why not listen to some podcasts?
Yes, exactly. Every cloud has a silver lining. I should also say as well in Klingon, Kapla as well for everyone, to our fellow Trekkies and Trekkers. I do, and I am very tempted to say Kaplunk, which is, of course, that game that we all used to play with marbles and sticks.
Oh, yes. Remember that.
But whenever I think of Kapla, I always think of Kaplunk.
I'm sure the Klingon fans out there would not be happy that their language is being turned into that. That was taught in schools throughout the 90s and noughties, wasn't it?
What, Kaplunk?
In college, no. No, the Klingon language. You could take a course in actually how to learn it. So, there are some people out there that even our pronunciation of that word might anger them. But
dare I say it, we studied maths, English, science, history, geography, art, music, theatre, and everything else in between, including home ec.
I'm talking about college now. In college, you can specialise in whatever subject interests you.
That is true.
All learning's good learning.
It is.
As they say. No matter whether it's a made-up language like English, which is also a made-up language. It just happens to not be connected to a TV show. That's all.
That is true. The tongue of Mordor as well.
Yes, I think you can.
The dark language.
Probably learn the dark language somewhere. Anyway, we're all over the place at the beginning of our episode. If you want to hear some more stuff, if you're stuck indoors and want to hear some more stuff that we podcast about, you can go over to tvpodcastindustries.com, subscribe to the podcast, listen to some of the stuff that we have available for you over there. Or if you want to, you can go over to our Patreon at patreon.com/tvpodcastindustries and listen to the first 5 episodes of our Penny Dreadful rewatch. Penny Dreadful, the first 3 seasons, starred Harry Treadaway, who we see a lot in this episode as Narek, but he played Victor Frankenstein in that show, and I think he's fantastic over on Penny Dreadful. There's some great moments that we've had already in the first season that we've talked about so far, and we're going to be talking about the second season pretty soon as well, so looking forward to seeing more of Harry Treadaway over there.
Yes, definitely. And of course, that is all building up to our coverage of Penny Dreadful City of Angels, which is out on the 26th of April.
That's right. And I've been trying to keep myself reasonably spoiler-free for City of Angels. But one thing I did learn this week, which I thought I'd share with the Star Trek Picard listeners, Brent Spiner, who plays Data, I'm sure you know who he is. We played Data on Star Trek Next Generation and also at the beginning of this series of Star Trek Picard. He has been signed on for Penny Dreadful City of Angels. So this is a really good show to follow up Star Trek Picard, really, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, a few nice little actor crossovers and threads between these two shows. I will be highlighting another one as well during one of my points.
Interesting.
And As we were talking about language beforehand, data or data is the eternal question on the minds of Trekkies and Trekkers, like potato, patata, or tomato, tomato.
Kind of, but that question was actually answered on the show when Dr. Crusher disappeared for a season and we had Dr. Pulaski on the show. She mistakenly called data, and wondered why he got so upset about the fact that she was calling him by that. And he said, well, one's my name. My name is Data. The other word is data, and that's just how you pronounce that term effectively. So it has been answered on the show. So it is.
Okay,
data.
excellent stuff. Yeah.
Anyway,
so the debate is over.
The debate is
excellent.
Over as soon as it's begun.
Yes.
But if you want to send us any thoughts that you have on any of the shows that we cover, just make sure you email us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com, or you can join us over in our Facebook group at facebook.com/tvpodcastindustries. A quick bit of feedback before we get into this episode, because over on Twitter, Mark McKinley sent me a direct message about the La Serena hologram with the name Emmett that we discussed last week on the podcast, because we were wondering why one of them would have a name.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and why everybody else didn't have a name. They were all called the emergency medical hologram or the emergency hospitality hologram. So none of them had names. But he had a really good point here. Mark says, "Hi guys, just listened to Picard episode 5 podcast and the point about Emmett. I assumed Emmett comes from emergency tactical, as in EME/T. It's just faster to say than EMT or ETH, emergency tactical hologram. You call them Emmett, especially in a battle situation. So perhaps Emmett evolved from that."
That is an excellent thought, and one that I am wholeheartedly behind.
Yeah.
That's really good, actually.
Really good, Mark. And I hope I did justice, because when I'm reading it in front of me here, it makes total sense. I hope I've done justice reading it out. Because it makes sense kind of creating a portmanteau out of a word that makes sense together, because you can't do that with emergency medical hologram, but you can do it with EMT. I like the idea of trying to get into Emmett.
And portmanteau is very heavily used in the German language as well.
Very good. Very good. Well, let's get into this episode 6 of Star Trek Picard, The Impossible Box. I just assumed before the episode was going to be going on that the Impossible Box was going to be the Borg cube. But instantly when you see Narek with that Rubik's Cube type box that he has.
Yes, the Romulan Rubik's Cube of death.
It's definitely a lot worse than a normal Rubik's Cube, isn't it? A lot more little secretive bits inside, obviously, because it's made by the Romulans. There's always secretive bits inside. But let's get into the episode. This episode was written by Nick Zayas. Nick was an executive story editor for this season and was a story editor on the cop drama Major Crimes as well. So he's starting to kind of go up the ranks of writing, effectively getting his own episode here, which is quite cool.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, the episode was directed by Maja Vrvilo. She's directed this episode and episode 8 of the show, and also directed the Star Trek Short Trek Runaway, and directed Discovery Season 2, Episode 11, Perpetual Infinity. A really good episode, actually. All of Season 2 was fantastic. I can't really pick out one individually that was better than the others, but definitely towards the end of that season, every episode was just hitting such a high bar. And also, for our former Gotham TV podcast listeners and viewers of the TV show Gotham, Maja directed Gotham Season 4, episode Mandatory Brunch Meeting, and Season 3, The Primal Riddle, 2 really good episodes of Gotham. So I'm really glad they brought Maja over to direct Star Trek Picard.
Yeah, it's good stuff. It does just show what a close-knit or small world I suppose the TV and film industry is really.
Absolutely, yeah. But it's always great to have those kind of connections.
Yeah,
you remember, Mandatory Brunch Meeting had Jerome in there and had his gang in there. That was a really cool episode of Gotham as well. So seeing her working in a completely different type of structure with Star Trek is quite cool. John, do you want to tell us the official episode description for episode 6 of Star Trek Picard?
Sure. Picard and the crew track Soji to the Borg cube in Romulan space, where haunting memories resurface for Jean-Luc Picard. Meanwhile, Narek believes he finally found a way to safely exploit Soji for information.
And exploit he does.
He certainly does, yes.
Let's get on to our big moments about the episode.
We must face the ramifications of the Prime Directive.
John, what's your major moment?
It is, I suppose, the big moment of the episode. And it's kind of a two-parter, really. It's Soji's dream that we see at the start And then also the Jalmak, the Romulan meditation where Narek gets Soji to tease out this dream that we see at the start in order to get more information, where she's doing it consciously, effectively. I thought this was really, really good. But one of the first things I want to say about it is just that opening with the young Soji sort of coming down the corridor with the lightning. It was very horror-esque. It really did delve and connect with that trope. But also what we learn from the Jalmak is this kind of modern-day Frankenstein. And I kind of really like that, just because Harry Treadaway playing Narek is part of that, because here is a Penny Dreadful connection where, you know, he is Victor Frankenstein in Penny Dreadful. Yeah. So I thought that was quite nice that, you know, this is an allegory, I suppose, of a modern day Frankenstein here with Soji. This creation, you know, her father, being this scientist effectively creating a new life form, if you will. So I thought this was really nicely done. It really did invoke the Mary Shelley element with the lightning as well, that sort of helps spark life into the world. So I thought this was a really nice little touch in the episode, actually, definitely. To be honest. But also, I think the really good thing in this moment, and particularly around this Romulan meditation and the way Narek uses and exploits Soji, really. You know, he's had this kind of romance with her, a fairly secretive one, given he's a Romulan, but one where there's been a little playful patter to and fro between Soji and him about how he is this closed book, yet they are drawn to one another. At least Soji thinks so. You know, she is unaware of his true intentions. But I like that he connects into this dream that she tells him about and finds this a fissure in which to exploit, and manages to get his sister on board, who does have a really nice moment where he's saying he's making progress now that he knows this weakness that he can exploit, and she just goes, "Progress? Well, you are admirably concealing it." You know, she is absolutely a doubter of his method. Yeah. But here in this episode, his method does come to fruition for them as he walks her through the Jalmak meditation tradition, as he's going and walking through different points within this meditation journey. And teasing out the dream that Soji has. And he's asking her to look around, and ultimately she is giving them at least clues to the location of this synth homeworld, which both Narek and Narissa realize is a reality. You know, for Soji as well as for Dahj, they assumed they were just sisters, biological sisters. They didn't even know that they were synths. But also, it's a question of whether we have thought these are just two unique twins in the universe, in the galaxy, or whether there are more. And I think this is one of the things Chris did say, you know, he's expecting that moment where there are, you know, almost a bit like the Clone Wars in Star Wars, where there's just, you know, hundreds of thousands of Soji and Dahj's on this synth homeworld. And actually, what we're beginning to understand now in this series is that there is a synth homeworld for a start, and there is likely to be countless twins on this homeworld.
There might be. Yeah, I just don't know how it's going to play out. You know, it'd be really interesting if their entire planet is filled with the synths, wouldn't it? You know, if that's what was happening with Bruce Maddox, he was building them, and then they went on to build more, or he had a team building more and more and more of them. You know, because the whole thing in Star Trek originally was that they created data and they created lore, and then there was B4, the 3 versions of data effectively, but they were all massively different, and only one was perfect, which was data. And the idea here is that we have Soji and her sister Dahj, who are both perfect creations of each other. They're twins, they're exactly alike. And will they possibly also have been able to mass produce these twins as well? You know, is there something that allowed them to mass produce them? And is that what the whole homeworld is full of? Or are they just saying the synth homeworld is just the place where the two of them are from? It seems like Narek and Narissa believe there's a whole legion of them that need to be destroyed. But we've still only heard about the two of them. One's already dead. So
yeah, and it could be much more kind of naturally evolving, whereby yes, it's not that there's legions of synths, but actually it's just communities and town. They are building their own society and civilization. Certainly Narek and Narissa believe that they are a threat and that there is some kind of maybe more existential threat to biological organisms from this homeworld. And here we get two very good moments as Narek takes her around the Jalmak. One is he asks her to look up, and we see two red moons, and the lightning from her dream are these electrical storms, which are immediately fed back to Narissa, who has this meditation space, I suppose this spiritual place of the Romulan Empire, bugged effectively, or it's through an earpiece or something in his ear and her ear. The one thing I like about this as well is that, you know, I don't know, maybe they're not desecrating this spiritual place, but I think they are, because the Romulan guard doesn't want to let a non-Romulan into the kind of chapel or this spiritual space. And so I like that sort of disconnect that, you know, on the one hand, there's this Romulan purity, yet the Romulans will desecrate or infiltrate that space in non-spiritual ways to get the information. And we see then this clue to the synth homeworld with these two red moons and the electrical storms. But also then we see this striking image of a wooden mannequin doll almost. It almost looks like one of those wooden dolls, that abstract wooden doll that's put together, but just a larger version of those.
Oh, the one that's used for painting.
Yes.
That they'll kind of use it to model the joints and that kind of stuff.
Exactly,
yes, I get you.
And
I instantly, what pops into your head is this is an allegory or an idea, because it's coming from her mind. It's in her dream. This isn't really what young Soji would have seen, of course, because there was no such thing as a young Soji, as we know now. She's seeing something like Pinocchio being brought to life.
Exactly.
The doll that became a real boy. She is the same thing, effectively, is what her true subconscious is telling her, you know?
Yeah. So we see this doll, but it has her face. It is quite lifelike. So everything else looks, you know, you see the grain of the wood. It looks very much like that Pinocchio kind of doll that is created, except the face, very much has the look of Soji and Daj, on it.
I wonder, are there some people that watched the episode and thought, did they just put some skin on some wood? Is that what this is like? I wonder, is anybody confused that this is all in her mind? Is it a dream, you know?
It's the template, effectively, for the body. Yeah, in terms of that artistic way, as you say. You know, again, it's another pointer.
Yeah, so, but it's all just in her mind. This is her mind telling her, you're not real. You are a doll come to life, effectively. But yeah, Narek is so manipulative in here, and it does make me wonder, you know, by the end of this discussion, when he effectively goes, right, that's it, see you later, have a good life, and then tries to poison her and kill her. It does make me wonder, are they going to play it that he does have feelings for her, or is he using her feelings for him to manipulate her, like he did in the episode specifically where he talks about his real name, for example? Does he give that to her as his final piece to get her to open up and give him the information and then leaves?
Well,
or will we see him come back in future and effectively, because he is in love with her, to save her in a situation in the future, potentially?
Well, I think that's it. I mean, it's almost like he does a anti-Indiana Jones moment where, as he leaves her, he gives her a long kiss. It is that moment where Indiana Jones is being ripped away from Marion, and they're still trying to embrace one another because of that positive connection. Here, it's just that it's a more dispassionate, it feels, anti-Indiana Jones effectively as he leaves. And I think, again,
he takes his final kiss and then goes, you're not real.
Yeah,
you never
exactly.
wear.
And this is the other big thing is, Narek really does show his true self, both in terms of his real name, his private name, or is this really the one name that he gives to the person who he loves in terms of Hurayan? And it's also his deceptiveness and manipulation of her. I mean, maybe the kiss is just simply to keep her sort of, calm and to prevent her from activating, as they say. But also he shows his true self by, unleashing his deadly Romulan Rubik's Cube and it's not poison, it's radiation.
It's radiation.
Because I was wondering, what type of gas this was going to be in order to kill a synthetic. Because presumably a poison, or an acid or something like that wouldn't be able to destroy them. But it seems as though it was radiation, because as she's trying to escape from the situation, she starts battering through the floor. They can't actually then go in to stop her.
That's
because the radiation has already been released from this Rubik's Cube.
Yeah, because I think we saw in First Contact, I think it was, where we had Data going into the Borg cube, an area that was irradiated, and you see his outer skin kind of falling off because he's in contact with it, but his android body isn't affected by the radiation. So if I remember rightly, that was in First Contact. So we know if they're built the same way or very similarly, which we don't know for definite, but they must be very close to Data. If they're built the same way, they probably have a high tolerance for any of that kind of stuff as well. So it was really interesting. And again, you wonder, this idea was brought to Narek from Soji, saying, you have your name for outsiders, you have your name for family, and you have the name that you only share with the one you love. He shares his name with her, and he's supposed to only share that to the person he's given his heart to, but is he sharing it with her as his final manipulation to her? We just don't know right now. I feel, because of the trajectory of the show, I feel we may have that reconfirmed at a later stage, that Narek is in love with Soji and he goes to save her from Narissa, possibly, over everybody else, something like that. And I think that might happen in the future, but I think it's left here as, I've now accomplished my mission. I now have to kill your entire species, effectively, of synths, and goodbye. You were never real. Off I go.
No, absolutely. So. I think just finally for me on this, there was a really nice moment during the Jalmak where Narek is just behind Soji looking over her shoulder, and his face is slightly in darkness. A really nice shot. Just kind of, in that moment, you just understand this man in the shadows manipulating this woman in front of him. A really, really good shot.
Definitely. I like the Jalmak setup as well, like the idea of walking an actual path in a room as you're going through exploring a particular memory or a particular dream. I don't know how often you'd use it, but I like the idea of walking through a memory or walking through an idea. I thought that was really cool. I also have to make a comment about this when Soji's standing at the beginning of the line, and the room is effectively just some markings on the floor and some lights as she walks in, and she goes, "This is beautiful." And all I could think of was, well, she is an android, I suppose, and it looks very well laid out. So maybe in her mind, she's like, well, that's quite beautiful because it's all ones and zeros. It's kind of like,
it was very simple, wasn't it?
It's like not many people would comment on a room without any kind of plants or decorations or anything like that in the room and go, "This is beautiful."
It was simple, sparse, this meditative space, which I suppose is the key to it.
Exactly.
To not provide any distraction. But Derek, without further distraction, what is your Prime Directive?
Well, I'm going to argue with you and say the big moment of the episode is my one, because the big moment of the episode is Hugh and Picard reuniting.
So cute.
I know, I've been waiting for this for ages, because I really like the character of Hugh when we saw him for that quick moment a couple of episodes ago when he was talking to Soji. It didn't feel like enough because he was such a massive character from the history of the Next Generation to come back for this show and only come back for that one or two episodes. It was just great to have a moment where he reunites with Picard. I loved all the way through from that original moment where Picard is searching the computer and it reveals what Hugh used to look like with his Borg implants on screen. And you see the recollection from Picard right up to that moment where he's stumbling on the Borg cube and Hugh comes up and picks him up, helps him out. and says to him, I'm here and I will do absolutely anything I can. I don't even know why you're here, but I'll do anything I can to help you. And Picard says to him, well, what I need right now is a friendly face. And they embrace and have that lovely friendly hug. It really does feel like the two of them have been reunited over all of this time that they've spent apart, you know. They really do seem to have a good relationship between the two of them. And I think it works so well in the episode that I really enjoyed their scenes together. They're playing off each other because they both have this past, because they were both former Borg. They both have this past that they can completely rely on each other to have those discussions. He's not as broken almost as Seven is, because Seven's seen the brutality to former Borg. I know Hugh has as well, but he seems to be kind of going, well, at least I'm making a difference, and at least when the other XBs are coming out of being Borg, I'm able to be the one there and go, right, we can move on together. You know, he's kind of leading them into this new life. And Picard being so impressed with the actual reclamation operation for the Borg, saying, you know, I didn't think this could happen on such a mass scale, you know. I think to everybody else, and I like these moments when they're walking around the corridors, to everybody else when they see the ex-Borg, they're confused by them a bit. It seemed like the way Hugh's explaining it, he's kind of saying, but every time they see them, everybody else is looking at them as their former Borg. Whereas you and me, we can look at them as they're coming back to the way they used to be, rather than being ex-Borg. So you see that moment when Picard comes on board first and is walking down the corridor with Hugh, and he tries to avert his eyes so that someone doesn't recognize him as Locutus, one of the former Borg, so that he doesn't recognize him as Locutus of Borg, because that's the memory they all have of each other. They know what they were and what part of the Borg they formed. So I like that relationship between the two of them. I like the connection between the two of them. Also, really good touch when Picard is kind of collapsing from his arrival on the cube and the camera pans down through the ship. It's a cool shot, actually. After those clips from First Contact, I think they used the First Contact movie as their template for all the Borg and Borg Queen stuff. And then the camera pans down to a bold Borg who looks very like a younger Picard, almost a little heavier than Sir Patrick Stewart, but it looks like another Locutus is on board the ship. It's a nice touch to choose him out of all of the Borg that could be there, you know.
No, he's the cutest of Borg.
The cutest of Borg. I think I heard that in another podcast. I can't remember who said it, but the cutest of Borg. It's definitely my favorite nickname for Locutus. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about their reunion. It stuck out to me as being such a great moment because, you know, Picard, remember, he's surrounded by so many characters that we've never met before. So him actually meeting someone, he never even knew Seven, remember? He would never have spent any time with Seven of Nine. Whereas
that's true.
Hugh would have been someone from his old days on the Enterprise that he knew and had a relationship with, had a friendship with in some sense. So seeing that he's doing well and seeing that he's getting on well and as a leader here, you know, we have that moment where Hugh says, at least I'm here on behalf of the Federation so I can get off here and leave. I'm not employed as such by the Romulans.
Which was a nice thing to come out of that conversation, because I had thought that he was employed by the Romulans, that he had kind of moved to the Romulans because of his treatment maybe within the Federation. And I didn't actually think that this was going to be, I think I said it on a previous podcast, it felt to me as though that this wasn't going to be maybe a happy reunion. So, likewise, I'm really, really happy that Huey and Picard, came together like this. I really like, the episode in The Next Generation with Hugh, aka Huey, and I just thought it was a really tender episode, I think, from Jean-Luc Picard to someone else. And this someone else happened to be, you know, this monster for the rest of the Federation, which was the Borg. And he looked through that. So, you know, it's quite powerful, their relationship. And certainly for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't care how many times you say it, John, it's never going to become a thing that the character's called Huey. He's never called Huey.
Huey.
You've said it for every episode for the last 6. It's not going to become a thing.
Huey. Well, fellow Trekkers, please go over onto our Facebook group and, of course, just comment Huey. Huey.
Right, okay. I think
Let's prove Derek wrong. Even ex-Borg can have a nickname.
Of course they can. Absolutely. Not Huey.
I think I'm going to actually be bridging here from the Prime Directive to the Omega Directive.
Implement the Omega Directive immediately.
So, and the reason why is my medium moment is kind of linked in with Hugh and Picard reuniting, as you say. And that's because I think Patrick Stewart here amazingly portrays the anxiety and concern that he has in returning to a Borg cube here.
Absolutely.
You know, he's very wary. On board the ship La Serena, you know, he does say, they don't change, they masticize. You know, he's haunted by something, that he wants to forget. And that's something that Rios says. And importantly, he then just does a throwaway line to, Dr. Jurati, where he says, like you, Dr. Jurati, which I thought was really kind of a nice, moment of, perception by Rios that she does seem haunted as well. And certainly after the events of the last episode, that's, for me, that's just an aside. Yeah. But, you know, we go, from this. Picard is massively anxious as he comes, on board the Borg cube. First of all, he's brought to a place where he is not greeted. It's like the Romulans are trying to make it as difficult as possible for him. It's kind of in this empty space with no formal, sort of welcome party in any way. And he's getting these flashes back to the collective, and so on. And, you know, as you were talking about before, the Borg that stop him, from falling, he has to be told this by Hugh. He has to have this explained. He thinks they're starting to swarm him almost to take him off again to, you know, reconnect him into the collective and to start applying all the nuts, bolts, and so on that will turn him into a Borg. So I really like this, and I like that, you know, as Hugh and Picard hug, he does say, I'll take a friendly face. And it's like Hugh just gives him that settled nature now that he's, on board, the Borg cube. Yeah. But I just thought that anxiety, that wariness from Jean-Luc was really, really good, here. I also do like, prior to him arriving, it is another fantastic shot, which is where, you know, he's on his computer, searching for artifact, the treaty, the Borg, and all of this. And there is that image of the Cutius of Borg, there, and just imposed, through this, through screen is Jean-Luc Picard. It's such a powerful way of reconnecting these two identities, in a very clever shot, I think, from the director.
Absolutely. I love how Picard's hand is going to his face where that implant was in the past, and just touching his face to kind of almost kind of going, is it still there? You know, I can still feel it on my face when I see that image of myself.
It's really interesting, isn't it?
I have to say, I did have to look up his word that he used, where he says the Borg coolly assimilate entire systems, they metastasize. I have to look up what that word meant because I didn't recognize it. It's effectively saying that it's a cancer, that the Borg infect everything they come in contact with. They can't change. That's all they do is just assimilate and take over. They ruin the entire system.
They infect and change the original cell to something different. Absolutely. I think as well, not only is Picard reassured by the friendly face of Hugh, but I actually think, as you were saying, you know, the work that Hugh is doing here helps to put Picard's mind at ease. You know, he says, Hugh, you're doing good. You're showing that Borg are victims and not monsters. And that must also, for him personally, be something reassuring, or dare I say it, comforting, that he's like, I'm not a monster. I was a victim of the Borg assimilation, and how, So I thought that was another nice moment, within this episode.
Absolutely. My Omega Directive is actually quite a short one because it's only really one scene, but it's Raffi's lies to get Picard his diplomatic pass, because what we've seen from Raffi is that she's fallen to a massively low level. She has gone to a deep place where everybody left her behind, but she's still willing, on the encouragement, I suppose, of Picard and the rest of the crew, she's still willing to burn another bridge to accomplish Picard's mission for him almost. She gets the diplomatic credentials from this Captain Emmy, a friend of hers, who ends the conversation with her effectively saying, as a very close friend of yours, never contact me again, you know? And you see it from Raffi, you see it on her face that this is another thing that she's had to burn because of her relationship with Picard. What I like about the scene as well, though, is Elnor in the background seeing Raffi say all these lies. He just has this look on his face kind of going, could we not have done this without all of the lies?
Well, absolutely, yeah.
This is not how I conduct myself. I would tell them the truth, tell them what I want, and if they don't give it to me, maybe I'd cut off a few heads.
It was. I really like that. There's this kind of bewildered expression from Elnor. What's happening here? Why are you doing this lying thing again? But there's also another little nod to Rios, who's smirking, who's just really enjoying seeing Raffi at the height of her sort of hustler power, I suppose, in that sense, that she's able to extract this diplomatic credential from effectively her former friend. And I think that's it. That's what's great about this scene here of Raffi doing this, is that I find myself sort of smiling all the way through it, just going, good on you, girl. It was really good. I like these touches of looking at Elnor, at Rios, even Raffi's kind of, you know, sort of take on Jean-Luc Picard, where she's going, you know, he's so Federation, his face is probably still on the brochures, all of this kind of thing. But
absolutely, and you know what he's like. He's when he's not id, he's just 90% ego.
Yeah, exactly.
I love the face on Sir Patrick Stewart when he's looking at it, kind of going, "Well, I'm not that bad, am I?"
Yeah, I know. It's actually a really kind of light piece, but underpinning it is this tinge that she's lost another friend here. You know, the previous episode she lost, or effectively wasn't able to reconnect with her son, who really doesn't want anything to do with her. We know she's lost her job within Starfleet because of what happened with the synth attack on Mars, and so on, and what went down there back on Earth in Starfleet as Picard resigns. And of course we see her drinking heavily here. Now in other podcasts I would normally do a whiskey watch, certainly for Jessica Jones, because she was another person that did like a good old whiskey. It certainly looks like whiskey, but there is no label, so it is an unbranded whiskey watch in that sense. But you know, this all kind of just underlines or underscores this whole kind of relatively light-hearted piece with kind of that tinge of Raffi circling downwards ever further a bit.
Well, I think this would be a very good example of the functional alcoholic, right? So this is someone that can hold herself together to get a specific job done. But you see almost instantly afterwards, and some people might think it's badly played because instantly she starts to fall over and stumble. As she's drunk, remember, like she starts the scene going, get out of my face, let me just do what I need to do. It's only 3 minutes that she has to keep herself together and make herself look like she's not drunk effectively. And then the minute that's over, she kind of takes another swig of whiskey and falls over afterwards. That's a functional alcoholic. And unfortunately, I have experienced that in my life. I've met people like this who are able to hold themselves together, and you wouldn't realize that underneath it all, they've been taking swigs of whiskey out of their desk kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
So there are people like that. And I do think this moment is showing you how tough it is, or how tough she can be when she needs to be, actually. And then her returning to herself, because the rest of the episode on Raffi's side really is taken up with her mourning the fact that she's not only lost her son, but now lost a granddaughter that she's not allowed to meet. So she's back in the spiral again, realizing that she now has a granddaughter that she can't meet. She has a son that no longer wants to see us. And she's saying to Rios, you've known me this long. You didn't even know I had a son. And now he has a daughter of his own on the way, and no one will ever know. And I'll never be able to meet her. It
was a really sad moment there. I thought it was really nicely played, to be honest. For sure. And she also, you know, again, in that moment, you know, realizes why are Narek and Narissa keeping Soji, this other synth, alive? You know, she starts logically processing, why would they not kill her instantly? Why are they keeping her around? What is it that they need from her? Why they're doing this? Which I think is quite good as well, you know, because I think Raffi, she is that as you say, functioning alcoholic who is massively intelligent and certainly is an expert in all things Romulan. So, you can see her intelligence around this area just really shining through. I really liked it. So I think she realizes that, there must be something else in the equation here for the Romulans. It's not simply about trying to destroy these two twins. There's something else, and I don't think she certainly doesn't come to any conclusion here, but I just like her intelligence around this. Even in these low moments, she's constantly thinking.
Yeah.
She trying to play the chessboard in a way. I really liked that. I think the other thing I liked about this is that, in terms of how they were going to get into this Borg cube, Dr. Jurati was saying she could pose as a scientist. There were kind of maybe more covert ways that they were thinking about doing it. And Rios is asking Captain Picard, because you've got a plan. And even with Raffi's lying to her friend to get these credentials for Picard, ultimately, it's the Qowat Milat way that we must be open about this. We need to be above board. Otherwise, it's going to be doomed to failure. Exactly. So I like that as well.
Yeah, and remember, Rios is actually criticizing Picard. He's criticizing his hubris again, I suppose, is something that's been leveled at Picard since the beginning of this series. But you have Rios kind of going, oh, well, we've crossed the former Romulan neutral zone and we're now in Romulan territory. And the only reason I'm doing this, the only reason I'm happy about doing this is because you've got a plan, don't you, Picard? And you see Picard's face just kind of, well, I was coming up with one.
Yeah, exactly.
I had an idea about one. Just really good moments with those characters in there. That's kind of it for our second points. Let's get on to our final section.
Make it so, number one.
The small moment about the episode. John, what's yours?
Well, do you know, I got a bit nostalgic here because The Next Generation, always gave us nerds hope. Certainly, myself.
Mm-hmm.
And in this episode, it is no different, where the geek girl, in this case, Dr. Jurati, gets the hot bloke, Rios. Yes. Good on you, Dr. Jurati. A bit of a snog there, a bit of, quarters action, no quarter given, I suppose, no quarter taken, but maybe quite a bit.
Maybe.
So quarters taken and given all around in the quarters between these two.
Yes, it'll keep her occupied for a few hours, as she says.
It always gave us this hope that we could dream, us nerds, and I think it's providing that inspiration again that the nerdy girl can get the hot bloke,
or just the shirtless football playing captain.
Yeah, or the nerdy boy can get the hot girl or the hot bloke, and vice versa. Exactly. It's all really, really good, but a little bit more serious now. As I say, there's two moments here with Rios saying to Dr. Jurati, that you look haunted too, that there's something that you want to forget. There's something in your past, whatever it might be, that you would like to forget, as he had just said to Picard. And he picks that out from Dr. Jurati. And I think as well, in this moment, is it that she's manipulating him here? Because it almost feels like she is trying to close him down from sort of prying into her private life as 100%, well.
100%.
So, I still think that Dr. Jurati is an evil Romulan spy and she cannot be trusted. I might be going a bit too far there, but nonetheless, I think whatever has been shown to her has completely wrecked her. And she is suffering for that. To what extent now will she go on to try and sabotage everything around this mission of Picard's to try and protect Soji? And I'm sure she will, because I think the thing to bear in mind here is that Soji, the Dark Destroyer, is still alive. She is with Picard and is probably soon to be aboard La Serena when they rendezvous.
Interesting, yeah. I just assumed that for Dr. Jurati, her mission was to stop Bruce Maddox from continuing on his work. Her mission was to make up for the things that she thought she'd done wrong in the past in helping in the creation of Soji. But you could be right. Maybe she is tasked with also helping the Romulans taking out Soji and the rest of her species, as we're going to be calling them, until we know is there more of them or not. I'm just not sure whether Jurati has anything further to play as part of her mission from Commodore O that she got earlier on in the season, because we never saw what she was actually told to do.
No, that's true.
So was she just there to make sure that they didn't take Bruce Maddox home and allow him to set back up his work or anything like that? She does seem massively haunted. She seems massively perturbed by the fact that she did kill Maddox, but she's covering it up completely, saying he died of natural causes. So I just don't know what the next step is. Is she going to just become a member of the crew from now on and go along with everything that Picard's doing? Or is that the reason why she wanted to go down with them to the Borg cube to potentially do the same thing that she'd done to Maddox, kill Soji? Was that what she was trying to do with going down there, saying the plan that she'd come up with was use her credentials as doctor to get them aboard the Borg ship? That she was one of the first people that came up with an idea of what to do. So was this her plan all along, you know? So it's interesting. I'm intrigued to see what she does in the future. But yeah, that definitely felt like that moment with Rios where he starts prying a bit too deep, and then she plants a kiss on his lips to go kind of shut the hell up, stop prying into my business in a way. But she still, you know, is kind of saying, right, we can go off and you can take my mind off everything that I've gone through. But I do like the moment. For my number one, my final moment, I just wanted to kind of question this because it's something that popped into my head when we were watching this episode. In last week's episode, where we had the whole storyline of Seven, there was the other part of it where Bjayzl and her team were harvesting Borg parts to sell on the black market, I guess. Is the Romulan Reclamation Project, are they also harvesting the Borg implants under the auspices that they're saving the XBs? Do you know what I mean? Like, is there some connection between those two stories? Are the Romulans actually going, we're going to take all these pieces out of you and cure you and bring you back to being humans? You know, they're treating them well. They're treating them far better than Bjayzl and her team, which were taking out all of these implants.
We said we wouldn't say that name again, Derek. It caused us so much strife.
It took me an extra hour to edit the episode last week, but I had to mention her name so you knew who I was talking about.
I think we should just call her Bjayzl.
Or Jay, I think is
or
what...
Or Bjayzus.
Yeah. Or Jay, as Seven had called her in the episode. We could just call her that.
We can't call her BJ.
No, we cannot. No, we definitely cannot. But I just wondered whether the Romulans are harvesting the Borg parts. Yes, they're using anesthetic to make sure that they're not as damaged, I suppose, as the people that Jay was taking all of the implants out of. But are they actually harvesting them? Is this what's going to connect to Seven's story? Is Seven going to arrive and go, hang on a second, what are you doing with all the bits you're taking out of these XBs, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, they're certainly probably not going to dump that technology, are they? I mean, that's the thing. It seems like the sort of more palatable or legal way of doing it, just under, as you say, the auspices of this treaty. But they're certainly, you know, I suppose at least they're being green, that they're reuse, recycle kind of thing. Yes, are they just melting it down? Or, you know, are they trying to, sort of strip the technology in order to learn about the technology and then develop it for their own needs? You know, it's almost this back engineering of the Borg tech. So, it's really good, but I think it's also a nice way that Seven's story could reconnect here. Maybe. In that she sees the contradiction of what Bjayzl did and what the Romulans are doing, that there really is no difference, other than at least, that they're treating the former Borg, sort of humanely in that sense, or Romulanely in that sense.
There you go. Well, Hugh is human, so maybe humanely is okay. It just popped into my head for this episode. I wanted to make sure that I put it in the podcast here, so we actually discussed it. So I just wonder, is there something there that might come back and be connected to Seven's story with the Romulans? Is that how she comes back in to the show in the future? Just wondered if that was something. Speaking of something, is there anything else we want to talk about for the episode?
Isn't there something else you have to do?
Any Easter eggs, connections that you may have noticed, John?
The one thing I did notice was that Rios's shoulder wound that we saw in episode 3, where he didn't want it to be sort of wiped away. He didn't want it to be modern Federation scienced away, like it could have been. He wanted that wound, and
durable regenerator.
But he didn't have it on his shoulder. It is completely gone when he's playing the shirtless football. So it's a little continuity mistake, methinks.
Or is it another underlining of the fact that he may be a hologram?
Exactly. Yeah. But there are other scars still there, but maybe they were the ones that were already present when he became a hologram in that sense, or the template from his body that was used. So
I know you were looking very closely at that scene to make sure
I was.
And check and see if that
I don't know
there.
why at all. Why I was looking at this topless hunk around his defined shoulder area at all.
Just to see.
It was all for continuity and podcasting. Exactly. But that was just one of the kind of things here as well. And also we get to see the Borg Queen's antechamber here. Hugh takes, once the alarm has been raised, Jean-Luc and Soji have connected the it is very Terminator-esque in like, give me your hand, I'll help you. Except that's not what was said. Give me your hand if you want to live,
Come with me.
Come with me if you want to live. Yes, okay, grand. So I completely butchered the quote from Terminator.
It was only in 7 movies over and over again, John. Yeah.
But, I like that Hugh is opening up the secret doorways and passageways to get to the Queen's, the Borg Queen's antechamber. And we have this technology here for, Soji and for, Jean-Luc to escape from the oncoming Romulans.
I think that technology was out of, Star Trek Voyager. It just reminds me of something, because the whole premise of the TV show Voyager was that they had been sent out of the main quadrant where Starfleet is, sent out to the Delta quadrant and stuck there and couldn't find a way back. And I feel like this technology that transports somebody across a galaxy, it feels like that was something from Star Trek Voyager. So this was, I think Hugh describes it as something after Picard's time on the Enterprise, or after the time that he knew Picard on the Enterprise. This technology was absorbed by the Borg, this ability for the Borg Queen to escape any situation. She could just walk into this and get transferred, to 10 million light years across the galaxy.
Yeah, it was something like 40,000 light years.
40,000 light years, 10 million light years. I don't know how far that is. Quite far, I would say. But I think it's something that I remember from the back of my mind from Voyager. So just a little reference that the species that the Voyager team would have met and tried to convince to help them on that show got absorbed by the Borg effectively, and their technology got absorbed. And also nice references to the idea of the Borg being a collective. I like the idea that both Hugh and Picard know where the Queen's lair is effectively, even though neither of them have been inside it. They both know where it is because they were part of the collective, and the collective knows everything about the collective, even that reference to the Borg that walks past and kind of goes, "Oh, Locutus," because
that was really good.
Even though it doesn't look the same, they know exactly who they are from just walking past each other. So.
Yeah, it's interesting actually, because even though it was Elnor to the rescue in this sense, there was part of me wondering whether because we'd had that image at the start of one of the Borg from his little pod kind of looking up when Jean-Luc came aboard, whether it would actually be the Borg that are still on the ship coming to protect Locutus of Borg and Hugh as well.
Maybe, yeah.
Le Hugh of Borg?
No, not really, no. I think
Huey of Borg.
No, definitely not. I think he was 3 of 6 or something was his actual designation. He used the name he chose.
That's true.
But I've actually said it on the show before and had it written down before, so I didn't write it down this time. But anyway, just nice references, as I say, to those concepts of them all being collective. We still don't know what's happened to the Borg that haven't been reclaimed, that haven't become XBs. They say there's areas of the Borg cube you're not able to go into. Will that come to play? Please let it come to play. Somebody walks off path, ends off being absorbed into a Borg collective that's been disconnected from the main collective. There are supposed to be areas of this ship that are unsafe. we haven't seen them yet, but I'd love to have a little moment of that. One other reference that I saw in the episode, or noticed in the episode, just Rios and Raffi talking about the bet that they had bet 2 strips of latinum on the fact that Soji would be dead. I love that idea that they went on this mission, or Rios went on this mission thinking that the target of that Picard wanted to save was going to be dead when they arrived. I like that little gag in there. But they're saying that they bet 2 strips of latinum. Latinum was the currency of the Ferengi. Quark was mentioned before in the series. This is something that was mentioned a lot on DS9, this idea of betting on things using latinum. So I like that they are still using that form of currency. If you're not a member of the Federation, you need some kind of currency, I suppose. So I like that they mentioned that in the episode. That's all the things I noticed in the episode. John, anything else that you saw, or anything else you wanted to talk about?
I think that's all from me, to be honest.
Yeah. I did like the reference to Romulans being in a 250-year bad mood.
Yeah, that was very cool.
Captain Emmy, that was quite a good little gag about them always being in a bad mood. Well, that's it, I guess, for the episode. John, what did you think of it overall? Star Trek Picard, episode 6. What do you think of it? I
love this episode. I actually think it's the best episode so far.
Right.
I give this 5 radiative Romulan Rubik's Cubes out of 5. I just thought it really pulled a lot of threads together here. You know, we finally get Soji and Picard meeting up, and I love this moment where she's dazed, confused. You know, she's just been betrayed by Narek. And I think the moment of Jean-Luc Picard saying, you know, come with me, trust me. I think Patrick Stewart just played it so well. Not only the meeting of Soji and Jean-Luc, but also Hugh and Jean-Luc meeting again, I thought was really good. And I think how both of them deal with being former members of the collective, and Borgs is just really nicely done here.
Definitely.
And again, I think Raffi's downward spiral, that there's so much here that I really like. You know, the Jalmak, meditation tradition, and how that was done with Narek was just so good. So for me, I thought this just has lots of great moments that really propelled the storyline forward, covered aspects from the previous 5 episodes as well. And I'm finding this a really nice romp through the galaxy here with Jean-Luc Picard. I'm really enjoying it. You know, there's lots of stuff to come here, but certainly I suspect we will be traveling to a planet that's got 2 red moons and electrical storms very, very soon. So yeah, absolutely. Really strong, really great episode here with 5 radiative Romulan Rubik's Cubes out of 5.
And fellow Trekkies and Trekkers, John said that twice in one go. Yeah?
Yes.
You didn't have to get that repeated. I'm very impressed with your little Romulan tongue twister there. Yeah.
Exactly. Next week, she sells seashells on the seashore.
I knew you couldn't say that.
No, I can't do that one. I almost sounded like Raffi there after her bottle of whiskey, dare I say it. Derek, what did you think of episode 6?
I really enjoyed this episode. Some great stuff. That impending threat of what would happen to Picard when he gets to the Borg cube paid off in such a great way, I think, in this episode. You know, finally seeing Picard get so angry about, you know, even the idea that he would be okay going aboard a Borg cube, and seeing his memories play tricks on his mind almost as he gets on board. You know, the idea of that a Borg would be awoken just by him arriving on the ship, all going on in his brain and his mind. I think that those were really, really good moments. 2 things I didn't like, because we don't always talk about the things we don't like on the show, but 2 things I didn't like in this episode. I just thought they were weird. The conversation he has with Jurati, where she's explaining that Bruce Maddox died of natural causes. This is the person that he was trying to save and get information from, and Picard just kind of goes, oh, that must have been awful for you, and then moves on and has a completely different conversation as if it doesn't matter at all that Bruce Maddox is dead. That just felt a little weird.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? I mean, I do know what you mean, but
he's got the information, so grand, let's move on.
It is a kind of a bit like that. Yeah. And to be honest, it's not to say that Picard isn't... Mourning is too strong a word. You know, he hardly knew this guy, in the sense that he had that moment where he is having a legal and existential and philosophical battle in The Next Generation. But Jean-Luc Picard does not know this guy.
Which is like 28 years ago.
Yeah, he doesn't know him. It's not that he doesn't feel sad, but there isn't necessarily going to be some wallowing grief that he's got to pull himself out of. So I don't think it's maybe more his treatment of Jurati, in terms of comforting her, but we know that there is this standoffishness about Jean-Luc Picard. There always has been on The Next Generation. As I say, that's why when I think one of the episodes where he was in bed with Beverly Crusher, I was just like, hang on a sec, he doesn't do this kind of thing. And, you know,
he's the eternal bachelor, of course.
Exactly. And we've seen him with Raffi. So I don't expect him to be wallowing and gushing with grief over Maddox's death. And I think, in a sense, from a pure sort of detached point of view, he has the information that he needs, which is where Soji is.
I don't think I even meant in that way. There was just no investigation into the death of Bruce Maddox. Jurati kind of goes, oh, he died of natural causes. And he goes, that must have been bad for you, and then moves on. He doesn't even go, are you sure? Maybe we should check the computer logs of the emergency medical hologram that was activated twice just around the time that he died. Maybe we should check and see if he saw you poisoning or killing Bruce Maddox just after he got on board. I just expected it to be a bigger thing in the episode, that was all. So, but that was just a bit of a surprise. The other thing that I thought was a little bit odd for the end of the episode was, as we have the hero moment when Elnor comes down and effectively murders 3 Romulans in front of Picard, and Picard goes, thanks for ignoring my instructions and coming down and saving us, and moves on. Whereas last time, when Elnor murdered somebody in front of Picard, he got massively angry about it and berated him and said, don't kill anyone unless I tell you to. So I was wondering why they didn't include him saying something similar again. I told you to stay on board the ship. Thanks for saving us, but I still don't want you killing people.
Yeah.
Would have made a bit more sense in the scene, that's all. But overall, the episode was a really good episode. I really enjoyed some of the things that happened, and I'm glad we're now propelled off the Borg cube with Soji and Picard on the run now, effectively, and with the Romulans, or the Zhat Vash, effectively getting the information that they've been looking for since the beginning of this season. This piece of information about where the homeland or home world of the synths is, and where is that going to take the rest of the series. So I think we're really lighting up our storyline for the rest of the series. So an excellent episode. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we do need to explore enemies being killed in the Federation world or the Star Trek world, because for the sake of brevity, I think the Starfleet have never solely set their faces to stun. I think people have died, and I think whilst there is moments where Jean-Luc is saying, you know, killing isn't the answer here, in terms of pure self-defense, that's not to say that he will have his phaser set to stun. To me, it was more, I think, in that scene that he didn't take Elnor with him, and that he seemed to let Elnor go to defend him much more, but maybe he recognized as well that it would be the only way for Hugh to remain alive. Okay, a lot maybe is unsaid in that scene for the sake of brevity within the episode, but yeah, I mean, I kind of understand what you mean for sure, but I think Romulans bearing down on you, the need to absolutely retain the thing that you've come for in the form of Soji, then you can't start having long conversations and moments of, no, you shouldn't have done that. That would have seemed like, you know, pause action, let's have this philosophical debate. So yeah, I do understand what you mean, but nonetheless, I didn't have an issue with this.
So pause action, time for philosophical debate, you mean The Next Generation, basically?
Basically, yes.
That's not a criticism. We both love The Next Generation. Let's get on to some feedback, your thoughts about the previous episodes and this episode. If you want to send in any of your thoughts about the episodes, you can email us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com, or as I mentioned before, you can join us on our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/tvpodcastindustries. If you want your voice to be on the podcast, you can record a clip of yourself over on our website at tvpodcastindustries.com, just like Jacob did.
Hey guys, I just wanted to drop y'all a quick note. I am a huge fan of y'all's podcast for Star Trek Picard. I'm a huge Star Trek fan, and I love what y'all are doing with this podcast. I just finished watching episode 5. I know y'all have probably moved on to recording the podcast for episode 6, but I just wanted to drop you a quick note. And kind of something I was thinking about with Gabriel's wife. You mentioned in the podcast that she was Romulan. I think, in my opinion, she was probably Vulcan. I think, it makes more sense to me that she would be a Vulcan based on his path with his mom. Psychologically, he would go for somebody that has that more calm, emotionless, stable demeanor. I don't know. What do y'all think? Do y'all think, that could be something that's possible? Or, am I just reaching at straws here?
Thanks so much for the voicemail, Jacob. I'm really glad you're enjoying the podcast. It's great to hear a Star Trek fan who's enjoying the podcast as well. In terms of the character being a Vulcan rather than a Romulan, to be honest, I think I actually got the description of her as a Romulan from the Trek Wiki page, and the reason I checked there was because I was just looking for her name. I really like the idea that this could be just a rebellious choice of her son to go after someone that's the exact opposite of his mother, someone that's very stable and very specific in their thinking. This idea of having a much more clarified mind, I suppose, than his mother, who's been going off for years trying to investigate this thing and going down a deeper and deeper hole, that it could possibly be going for a Vulcan because it's the exact opposite of his mom. We all do the opposite of what our parents want us to do. So I like the idea that he's going after someone the exact opposite of his mom as kind of a rebellion. That's a really interesting choice there, Jacob.
Yeah, excellent stuff. Thanks, Jacob, for the voicemail for sure. Yeah, I think for me, I kind of saw pointy ears and went Romulan because this is so Romulan heavy. It's almost like for me, it's almost like I'm forgetting that the Vulcans exist because that they're not really a huge part of this show. It's all about the Romulans. I think it's more likely to be the Vulcans given their much closer relationship to Starfleet and to Earth, and being part of the Federation, which the Romulans aren't. Certainly in episode 6 now, we know that there is this former neutral zone, but that any crossing into it could be seen as an act of war. Hence why, there is the diplomatic credentials that, Picard needs, so that actually, I think the Starfleet officer says, any Starfleet ship or Federation ship in that area, it will be classed as an act of war. So the tensions between Romulan and the Federation still exist massively here. So it probably is more likely to be a Vulcan. Or if it is the Romulan as suggested by the wiki page, then yes, this would seem like a complete act of rebellion towards his mum, probably on a number of different levels. Certainly given she is a Romulan expert, and probably because she couldn't trust a Romulan as far as she could throw them, then this would almost seem like sort of a smack in the face for her. So yeah, it's an interesting thing that something, as minor detail like that can have so much depth to it. So it's a good call out there, Jacob. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. And thanks again for listening.
We also got some feedback over on our Facebook page from Bob Phillips for episode 6 as well. He says, Narek, how could you bastard, evil, red, angry face. Never trust a pretty boy, my mother said, always gets you into trouble. Yes, absolutely.
Everybody always tells people about me like that.
Do you mean I'm in trouble?
Something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Bob also says, in this episode, we learn that in space, no one can hear you play keepy uppy unless they happen to be a guilty insomniac and fancying some company. Yes. Well, fancying something for sure. And finally, Bob says, I very much enjoyed the brinksmanship, which earned the diplomatic pass and the awe Picard had for the XP project. The unraveling of a life unlived was agonizing and wonderful, and I hope Space Samurai Boy survives. Me too, actually, Bob. I really do hope that the Space Samurai survives his encounter with the Romulans. I really hope Huey does as well. But certainly he may be fired from his position, given that his employers are the Romulans. But I hope they are all going to team up shortly. That'd be quite good to have Hugh along as well.
It would, yeah.
And certainly with 7 of 9 arriving in as well. That could be a really good team. It almost feels like it could be, dare I say it, some 80s synth band that could be there.
It could be. I do like that moment with Hugh saying, can you hold them off for a couple of minutes while we get this room sealed again? And Elnor goes, I won't need a couple of minutes. He's just going to slaughter anybody that comes along. I just think that's really an interesting touch. Hugh still thinks that this kid's there to defend him. He's not there to defend him. He's there to take out anybody who attacks. They're slightly different things. But yes, that moment where you see Soji in her room tagging everything, going probable age 37 months, and it's going over and over again, and she's smashing everything. I was wondering why she didn't just scan herself, just in case she did think that she was synthetic herself, but that didn't seem to cross her mind. She just thinks everything in her life has been created in the last 37 months. An interesting touch, and I know it's just how the line was written, but I don't know why it just completely stood out to me when she turns around to Narek and is explaining the whole situation to him and says, nothing I own is older than 3 years. Yeah? And I went, she's an android. 37 months is 3 years and 1 month. So actually everything she owns is older than 3 years. I said, her mind should know that, right? That she's saying everything is 37 months. Nothing I own is over 3 years. Everything you own is over 3 years. 1 month more than 3 years. Anyway, that's me being wonderfully pedantic again.
Yes, it is. On to our final bit of voicemail from Steve Brown.
Hello, TV Podcast Industries. This is Steve. This is for the latest episode of Picard, The Impossible Box. Absolutely enjoyed this episode. I really liked it. These last 2 episodes have been really good. And it's tough to pick which one is better. I guess the previous one because it had Jay Ryan, but this one was really good. I like that we have an activated Soji now, that she's about to learn what she is. And so I'm excited for that. Very Philip K. Dick of the story with Narek telling her, well, maybe someone put false memories inside you. I really liked that. But then, of course, his inevitable betrayal by leaving her in that room was just was heartbreaking for her. But it did send her straight into the willing hands of Picard. So, again, I'm really enjoy this episode. I thought the beginning with Girardi and Rios getting together was a little bit predictable, but at the same time was kind of cool, especially with us knowing that she kind of has a darker side to her. I guess her explanation of Maddox's death was satisfying to them, and they didn't turn to the EMH to get any information, or maybe she was able to delete the information from the EMH. I don't know. Maybe we'll find out later, or not. No big. Can't wait to hear what you guys thought. Talk to you later.
Thanks, Steve. You see, Steve's on my side about the idea of why didn't they just ask the emergency medical hologram what happened? We have logs that say that came alive twice yesterday at the point when he died. Maybe we should check that out.
I agree. I totally agree that, normally in a fully functioning Starfleet ship, yes, there will be the people to do that investigation.
True.
I suspect with this threadbare crew, that's not something that they're going to do. And it seems that at least Jean-Luc does trust Dr. Girardi. So he has no reason to disbelieve what she is saying to him. Given their previous contact.
Yeah.
Or dare I say it, their first contact. So, I think there's no reason to. And again, it may be simply that she has been able to delete those files to remove any trace.
Yeah.
So again, you would need to be doing some kind of data sweep to see that there had been a deletion at that point to maybe cotton onto her. So,
I like that you say threadbare crew when 7 of the crew, I think, are holograms at the moment. No,
well,
it's not 7, it's before.
But yeah, I mean, unless one of the holograms is taking on that role and would alert them to it. And I think we had this conversation that might be the case. I think at this moment, the only person I think who would or could do that is probably Raffi. And that, in one of her drunken stupors, she is checking something out. She's doing something, whether it's to determine course projection or whatever it may be, that she comes across the fact that there has been a deletion from the medical records. I think that's an interesting thing. I do like as well, Steve, that you bring up Philip K. Dick as well. In a sense, following on from Mary Shelley, I did think, does Soji dream of electric sheep, or in that sense, this idea of consciousness and whether androids, with Mary Shelley, it's about, in creating the monster of Frankenstein, and the perceptions and projections of other people as to what he is rather than what he actually is in himself, and consciousness. And this is similarly with Philip K. Dick. It's about the consciousness of an android and their dreams. Does this make them sentient in the sense of like humans with consciousness? So this episode certainly has those themes of Mary Shelley and Philip K. Dick in respect to his book, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which of course is Blade Runner.
Of course.
And so, yeah, it's great sci-fi that, I think for sure.
Absolutely. I was wondering what was the question the creature asked in Penny Dreadful is, when he gets brought back to life, he's asking the question of, why did you allow me to feel? Because that's the thing that causes the most pain. So I wonder, is that, part of the concept of why are you allowing her to dream when actually inside her dreams she knows that she's not a human. She knows she is something created. So
exactly.
That's what she's finding out here. But,
I like that notion from Narek, the cognitive dissonance as her physical makeup as this synthetic is going to lead her on a path that ultimately will bring who she currently thinks she is as to what she is in reality into conflict with one another. And you have that around Philip K. Dick's book and Mary Shelley in a different sense, obviously not with androids, but with reanimated people, and whether they regain the memories of the previous person or whether they create new ones. So it's a really interesting concept, very sci-fi heavy, and so absolutely perfect for Star Trek Picard.
Absolutely. Yep. Thanks so much for your feedback, Steve. As always, love to hear your voicemails and love to hear all the feedback from everybody about these episodes. We're really enjoying talking about Star Trek Picard.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Steve, Bob, and Jacob, for all that feedback.
Absolutely. One last thing to do on this episode. Let's go off to 10 forward for our pub quiz question. John.
Yes, well, fellow Trekkers and Trekkies, yes, we are in 10 forward for the pub quiz. Go grab yourself a tumbler of that Earth whiskey, of course, on the rocks, if you so wish, a little dash of water. In fact, dare I say it, just one rock of ice is the best.
Yes.
Don't flood it with water or ice, dare
also,
I say
don't
it.
Fill an entire tumbler full of whiskey as well. That's quite a lot.
Well, it is, yes. But my question for this episode: how many pieces make up each side of Narek's Romulan Rubik's Cube?
Ooh, I didn't even notice that one. That's going to be interesting.
Yes, and I think it's a little more complicated than we may think, since, and this is a clue, fellow Trekkies and Trekkers, the edges are not flush with one another. They have raised pieces.
Ooh, I am really intrigued. I love when you have a question that I don't know the answer to in here.
I don't know whether I know the answer to it either, but we will find out, sure enough.
I hope so. I just want to point out when we get the emails in from some of our wonderful listeners with the pub quiz, they do send in little comments and little notes. I just wanted to point out one of them that I loved this week. We got an email in from Bob after the 4 questions that you asked last week that all had numerical answers, John.
Yes.
And Bob asked the question whether we now know your PIN number for your
I must
your
go
credit
to
card.
the bank.
Because it was a 4-digit number, effectively.
That is true, yes.
Yeah. You don't. I'm assured that John will change his PIN number from now on. Thanks very much, John. What's the question one more time for everybody?
Yes, the question is, how many pieces make up each side of Narek's Romulan Rubik's Cube of death?
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode. You can send in the answer to that question to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com, and the person who answers the most questions correctly at the end of the series will win a special Star Trek Picard prize, including a behind-the-scenes book of Star Trek Picard, which we think we have secured now. It comes out on the 10th of March, so we think we have one secured just for you, the winner of this competition.
Yes, exciting prizes.
Can we announce anything else that's in the prize pack, John?
Yes, I think we can. We also have a Federation pin badge as well from the premiere of Star Trek Picard that was held there earlier this year at Leicester Square in London. And I think there may be a smattering of other little objects for your enjoyment as well.
Yep, so go back, listen to the episodes, get the pub quiz questions, or pop onto the website at tvpodcastindustries.com. I've written up all the questions on each of the episodes there. Send in your answers to them, and you could be in with a chance to win the prize pack of Picard. Ooh, so many P's. We'll be back next week for our discussion for Star Trek Picard, Episode 7, Nepenthe, written by Samantha Humphrey and Michael Chabon, and directed by Doug Arniokoski. And as I mentioned before, if you want to hear more of us, if you're stuck indoors with Storm Jorge, or you're stuck indoors because you're not allowed out in case you get the coronavirus, pop on over to our Patreon account over on patreon.com/tvpodcastindustries. There's 5 episodes of our Penny Dreadful rewatch podcast out there at the moment, with 3 more coming each week until we get to the release of Penny Dreadful City of Angels on April 26th. We're really enjoying talking about Penny Dreadful, so hopefully you can join us for that one. Bye bye, fellow Trekkies and Trekkers. Keep watching the stars.
As always, fellow Trekkies and Trekkers, thank you so much for listening. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. And of course, remember, keep watching, keep listening, and engage.
Bye.
Bye.